Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Geoff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
Yes, his sun is out.
That's
feeling
right.
good.
Yeah.
NAMM is over.
NAMM is over, and you know, I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that.
Yeah.
Now they just have to recuperate.
Yeah, they have to get through the NAMM flu or the pneumonia.
Yeah. Oh my God, it always happens. I decided not to go. And I'm happy about my decision.
Well, you know, like I said, if you go to NAMM, there's no more to be invented. We are done, and that's why vinyl is being pressed now, because they're like bell-bottom jeans. Everything's coming back full circle.
Absolutely.
And we'll be circling around. Next time, it'll just be stick it in your head. That's how you play.
That's right. And everybody just put your headphones on and you'll hear what everybody's doing. That's it.
Exactly.
But we got to thank the listeners first.
Well, yes, we do have to thank the listeners.
We do. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you so much.
See, I'm on it, man.
I know. Yes.
It's been a long day already.
It's already been a long day. Yeah. And, you know, when you do, if you do pass this on, this is very important.
Yeah,
and
please.
I got to say, we are being heard because our numbers are reflecting, and God bless every single one of you, man.
That's right.
We can't thank you enough for turning friends on, man, and turn those friends on, because these numbers grow. We got ideas. We just can't go on it right now until we get the numbers that we need to be able to get the backing that we need.
Absolutely.
That's the key.
Tell your friends and family, and have them tell friends and family. You know.
And still, as of right now, Mr. Jason Sadidas with our
Quick Lick.
That's right. He's going to be. We're going to be finishing up. And I apologize. I was wrong. He gave us 91.
Oh, okay.
Gave us 91
Wow.
quick licks, so we still have a couple left as of this recording, and but
he's busy.
Yeah, and it will retain in the quick lick archives on the webpage of ampsandaxescast.com.
Right.
All the social media stuff is there. Sign up for that. Follow us, like us, all that crap. And I don't know what that does.
It doesn't necessarily mean that the feature is going away. We don't know this for sure.
We've been getting some strange emails.
No, it's not strange. We get great emails.
Great emails. I shouldn't say strange.
No, absolutely.
No, great emails.
Yeah.
And
we have listeners everywhere.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. So
it's kind of humbling, by the way.
It is. And so, you know, if Jason, when Jason, you know, ceases to do the quick lick, something may be taking its place. So, that
is correct.
We'll see.
Yeah, and a big thank you to Jason for all the work that he has done for us. And absolutely
And, you know,
$0.00.
Turn your friends onto the quick licks too, because you know we'd like to give Jason some love out there.
Oh yeah.
So you know if
you
haven't been
YouTube,
clicking on him, click on him, watch it. You know if you got a guitar player friend, you go, oh dude, you got to see this one. Turn him onto it.
Yeah.
Turn him onto it. You know Jason deserves the clicks too. He deserves the love.
I'm
going to say love, not even clicks. He deserves the love.
And on a sad note.
Another sad note.
Another sad note, man. This is bad. You know, we're starting off this year like last year.
And we addressed this on our other podcast, but not here. Butch Trucks. Man,
we did not have the story when we reported it in TWIM.
We did not. We just had that he passed. Nobody knew how, and they kept it quiet for a few days. And I understand why now. It's like
bad, man.
Wow, man. It's sometimes you just wonder how things can be so bad. And I know nobody that doesn't experience it could ever understand it.
Yeah.
So I guess more what I'm saying is I'm so sad that it was so bad for him.
Oh,
you know, I know I couldn't ever understand the only person that could understand
and
him
his wife
is him. And well, to do it in front of his wife, too. Jesus,
yeah, it's crazy.
God. Oh my God!
And for those who may not know, he committed suicide.
Yeah,
shot himself in the head in front of his wife.
Yeah.
So
I can't imagine how bad that has to be. Thank God I can't imagine how bad. And I'm sorry that he had to.
Yeah, exactly.
But either way, R.I.P. Butch.
Yeah,
Thanks for many, many decades.
Insane drummer
of driving the train, buddy.
Yeah. And what a hell of a train to drive. That's
right.
the thing, Wow. So another loss here is, and if you're familiar with Black Sabbath,
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they
really, really like them.
They have, they had a keyboardist that was a lifelong keyboardist from the early days up until right when I just saw him. His name's Geoff Nickolls. He passed away. Wow. And the thing about it is that you never saw him. He was always off the stage. He just was not, just not there. Mm-hmm. And, he was there musically, right, but just never a part of the band. And, there was some keyboard parts that I guess he filled in and, was on most of the tours. They say there were some years that he was not on tour with them. But, the guy passed away, and here we go into 2017. It's just, I don't know. Look, this is the inevitable. But it just seems like music has been really picked on this time.
Exponentially somehow.
Yeah. So it's just,
Well, I hope it slows. I hope when we get to warmer weather, things slow down.
Exactly. Now, speaking of Black Sabbath.
Okay.
They're coming to the end. In February, they will be playing their last shows, and the last show is in Birmingham, where they're from. So how ironic is that?
Totally appropriate.
Yeah.
Totally appropriate.
Yeah. And
finish it where you started it.
That's a cool thing.
It is.
Because you don't really see bands, ain't many of them out there that do it, that end it on that note,
Well, is it the full?
Oh, that's true. Now, hopefully, Bill will be part of that last show.
It would be so nice if they could work that out. That would,
it would just be the most awesome thing.
Bury the hatchets, dude. Just do it.
Do that last show together, man. Could you imagine? I've had so many, with the new Paranoid, that one box set I told you about, which has the tracks that are just no vocals and are all single tracks. And it's like, these guys were doing this on a shoestring budget, man. And they were making some of the coolest songs out there and making a genre of music called heavy metal.
Yeah.
They were it. It's there's some arguments that go back and forth, but come on, Sabbath is.
Yeah. I was just talking to, you said box sets. It just reminded me. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday during the gig, a break or something. And he's big on like box sets and high def. And like if it's out, he's buying it, and he just got the new high def box set of Fresh Cream.
Oh.
And there's all sorts of unreleased and out, of unreleased tracks and just all sorts of stuff that has never come out.
That is cool.
Outtakes, everything, pictures nobody's ever seen before, probably in the studios. But he said, there's a ton of outtakes and stuff that just, alternative cuts that hadn't come out. And
wow.
Yeah. So they're really starting to put out some cool stuff. With the Sabbath thing too, it's like, all the stuff that was just away in a vault for 30, 40 years, and somebody's
finding it and they're bringing it back out, and they're like, let's mix it up.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And an amazing bass player, in Cream.
Oh, Jack Bruce. Oh, come on. Not only bass player, vocalist.
Yeah. Vocalist. Look, you got Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker, even though he's absolutely insane. He's an amazing drummer.
Oh, yeah.
And, that band was a pretty badass band.
Oh, for sure.
You go back and listen to some of those albums and you're like, that's crazy. Stuff for three-piece.
Two of my favorite voices from back in the day were, and they were both bass players, but, secondary vocalists, but really, really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was Jack Bruce and Felix Pappalardi.
And
from Mountain.
And Mountain was America's Cream.
Yeah, yeah. And both of those bass players had just great voices.
Because we talked to Leslie and he said, no, Cream was the band.
Yeah, we wanted to be them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about,
yeah. Well, speaking of bass players.
Exactly.
Wow, that was pretty good.
You like it?
We have one today. We have one of those 4-string guitarists today.
Yes.
Maybe he plays 5. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know.
I don't know.
The things I've seen, I think he's only playing 4.
I think it's only 4.
Yeah.
I think it's only 4. Yes, and a plectrum player at that.
Mm-hmm.
At least for what he does now.
Yeah.
And he kind of prefers it. So we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna come back with a bass player from a band that you may or may not have heard of, and if you haven't, you're just simply not in that genre, because they're very well known in the prog genre. Mm-hmm. So we're going to come back. We'll take a break. Come back with our guest of the week, the bass player for the Neal Morse band, Mr. Randy George.
My name is Davey Knowles, and you're listening to Amps and Axes.
All right, and we are back with our guest of the week, bassist for the Neal Morse band, Mr. Randy George. Randy, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Mick, before we get into the interview, Mick turned me on to you guys, the Neal Morse band, and got to say, really digging the stuff, man. Really digging it.
Great.
Yeah, my question is, does Mike Portnoy, does he just pop up when anybody makes a progressive band? Does he just like... I mean, does he just like, you guys are like, okay, so it's going to be like a progressive thing, and you can hear it knock on the door?
That's it, yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike Portnoy. I'm here to play drums for you guys.
I don't know. You'd think that sometimes, huh?
That guy, it seems like his car never stops running, because it's like, oh my God, he's just an amazing drummer. I mean, yeah.
But he's been around a long time.
That's true.
Yeah, man.
That's true.
He has. He's done a lot. Dream Theater was a huge vehicle, and I think it afforded him a lot of opportunities to help a lot of the bands that are now doing real well. But at the time, he gave a lot of bands opportunities to open for Dream Theater, and brought a lot of them along by giving them opportunities. So it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love his playing. I love his playing style.
He's a monster,
and it must be fun playing with him. I mean, you guys make a great rhythm section together. That's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Sure. Yeah, Mike's a great drummer, and he's very consistent, and it's just like playing along with the CD, basically.
Well, there's a ringing endorsement.
The thing about playing along with the CD is, it doesn't make any mistakes, right?
There you go.
And so, Mike's he's just solid that way, and he's just, it's always there as long as you're watching him and when you need to be, and it all clicks very nicely. And he's a very easy guy to work with, really.
That's good to hear. That's good.
Yeah,
to hear. Because
he truly loves music. So
he's so good. He could be a pain to work with.
Oh yeah.
He said, no, but you need me. I'm really good. You need me. Now, well, let's do what I do with most of our guests, Randy, and we're gonna jump in the Wayback Machine and find out where Randy George came from, like where you were born and raised, and what got you into this wonderful world of music. So give us a little history, Randy.
Well, I was born. I was born in 1962. Those were turbulent times. I was born in Denver, Colorado, in 1962, so I am now officially older than mud. But I grew up in suburban Denver, Colorado, and we basically had the classic rock scene and the classic pop scene of the 70s. And I had siblings that were anywhere from 7 to 10 years older than me, so a lot of the music filtered down to me through them. My brother, who was more into the Who and the Neil Young and Led Zeppelin, and my sister, who was into David Cassidy and Bobby Sherman. And, oh my gosh. And so, I got a wide range of musical influences that came at me. I grew up in a household that had a record collection of Beach Boys and Lovin' Spoonful and Beatles. And so, those are the things I basically initially hit me as a musician. I think, yes, and the Moody Blues were probably two of my very first, bands that I chose that I liked, that were just uniquely me. And so throughout the 70s, to be honest with you, I saw the picture on the back of a Moody Blues album cover, and John Lodge was holding his P bass, his Fender Precision bass, and I said, I want one of those basses with all the big tuning keys on one side. I thought that looked cool, so I had to do that.
Did you know it was a bass guitar, or you just liked the way that thing looked?
Well, initially I liked the way it looked. I probably didn't fully understand, the role of the instrument when I first saw it, but there was a music store near our house, and we used to spend a lot of time there, and he was a Fender dealer, so naturally I got a pretty good sense of what, bass versus guitar was like. I think the 4 strings seemed like it would be a little simpler to try to learn. However, conversely, I was actually taking piano lessons as a child, so I would say piano was really my first instrument. But the bass just somehow appealed to me that way. So my dad got me a Fender Music Master bass and amp combination in 1974 for Christmas, and that's where it all started.
Nice. And that wasn't the like the $99 package that you can get nowadays. All the stuff's made in Korea or China or something. You can buy a starter pack for $99 with a guitar and an amp. But that obviously was something much more substantial. Because those basses were very cool, and I remember the bass amps too. It was kind of like the bass version of the guitar side of it would be like a Champ or a Vibro Champ or something.
Gotcha.
And the Music Master was kind of like the bass side of the beginning thing. Yeah, but it was really cool. Really cool.
Huh.
Right, and they were still made in Fullerton, and which is where I live coincidentally now.
Oh, nice.
But so it was decent, and I started learning Moody Blues and Beatles, and subsequently, music. Uh-huh. And then, of course, I added to that, with all the other progressive greats of the 70s. They all sort of followed in suit: Rush, Kansas, Genesis.
Yeah, that's
Now, you said you mentioned Beatles and Yes. I mean, two very substantially different bass players there.
Oh yeah.
And I could see, Yes, of course, I can see, the Prog thing, because you guys are an incredible Prog band.
Yeah.
But what was your take on McCartney's bass playing? Did you ever think about it that much or get involved in it that much that you kind of analyzed it a little bit? Because he's definitely a different bass player.
Oh, sure. I learned Beatles songs. I thought songs like Taxman had great bass lines, and he just had things that he did in a lot of songs that were just really cool. And I think he tended to be a little more busy than he really had to be, but it worked in what they were doing. And so I think I tended to gravitate toward more busy type playing and things that had a lot of movement. That's why when I heard Roundabout, I instantly said, okay, this is cool. I don't know what that is, but it's cool, that bass line. And so subsequently, when I became a huge Yes fan, obviously I switched gears and I really had to have a Rickenbacker. So,
of course.
So I got a Rickenbacker bass in 1976, but once Chris Squire came along and pretty much took over as my initial influence and mentor, as much as I liked the Beatles and McCartney, even in his solo stuff, obviously once I was into Yes, it was just so much more complex musically that, I just sort of stayed on that end of it.
Mm-hmm. You said you got your Rick in 76. Were you playing with other musicians at that point? And had you played before? Like, what was your first kind of outing with a bunch of guys making some music?
That would have to have been 9th grade, probably. Okay. Or well, I don't know if it would count, but I think in 6th, I got my first bass in 6th grade, and I started playing at the Catholic church. They had sort of a worship team there, if that's what you could have called it back then. I doubt that's what they would have called it. But they liked having musical instruments in their church services. So here I am over there, playing bass with the music guys over there, and we're doing they sing the Our Father sometimes, and I'd be playing the bass part to roundabout, because it somehow fit. I don't know how I did it, but it did fit. And people, at the end, I love that. It was really great, So, but some friends called and said, "Hey, we got this show at some elementary school. We need to, do you want to play with us?" And we did a half dozen songs. I think that was my first outing with a bunch of people. And then subsequently in high school, I had a few different bands throughout high school. And of course in the late 70s, you didn't go to high school unless you were going to keggers every weekend, so we were playing all the time. There was parties that we would play at, and lots of people. And usually in somebody's house. So that was a lot of fun though, because we did a lot of cover songs from the 70s. Bachman Turner Overdrive, Rolling Stones, We even tried doing Roundabout and Carry On Wayward Son. The biggest problem we always had is we never had a singer who could sing any of that. But somehow we managed to pull off a whole bunch of old classic rock covers and stuff doing that. And beyond that, I think once I got out of high school, that's when I started writing music. That would have been right around the start of the 80s, and I started experimenting with recording and writing. And so through most of the 80s, I sort of developed as a writer, and ultimately, put together some bands that tried to do original material and whatnot.
Nice,
that's cool, man.
Yeah. What was at that time? What was your rig with the? Well, you had I think you said you had a P bass first, and then you got a
no.
You had the music.
At this point, I was, I was strictly the Rickenbacker guy. Okay. Once I got my Rick, it was the only bass that I would even. That's the only bass I even recognized anymore. Because to me that was the whole world. The whole world was Chris Squire and his bass sound. Mm-hmm. That's what I had to do. Geddy Lee was really cool too, but since he played with his fingers and I started playing with a pick initially, he didn't really impact me until a little later. I think Moving Pictures was my sort of 180 Rush album, because prior to Moving Pictures I didn't like him that much.
Huh.
And somehow Moving Pictures really turned me around, and they become one of my favorite bands. And then I can't even remember why. I guess I know why I didn't like them before that, because I was just dumb, like all kids. But you have to grow up and learn that, not everything is just one way. You have to be willing to embrace different things. And once I did that, I really fell in love with Rush. But I didn't find Geddy Lee any easier to play, certainly not with fingers. It's taken me a lot of years to be able to play the way he does with his fingers. But and even then, I don't really quite do that much, because I don't know anybody who really gets that tone playing with their fingers. Geddy's just really unique that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hear some of those lines that he does, and you go, that sounds like he's actually using a pick.
Yeah, there's so much
exactly.
like top-end articulation there,
yeah.
Doesn't
he's got
usually
these long,
come from
pointy fingers. They're skinny and pointy on the ends, and I think the less flesh hitting the string, the more you can get that sound.
Yeah.
When you got fat sausage fingers like me, that doesn't work out so well.
That's what they make picks for.
That's right.
So when you had the Rick, what was your amp of choice at that point?
Well, funny enough, I bought an amp when I bought the Rick from this guy, and it was a Sun Coliseum head with two cabinets, and each cabinet had two 15s in it, and they were the folded horn, so they were. It was like two refrigerators. So it was a massive rig. And prior to that, I had a couple of Altec 1x15 cabinets with a PV, like a PV Mark III or Mark IV or something like that. I forget what it was, but it had fuzz and tremolo and all kinds of stuff. So I did the Rickosound thing, and I used that giant Sun rig for the neck pickup, and I put the bridge pickup through this PV and the 215. So I had like 615s. It was a wall of bass. Wow. But it was really cool because I put effects just on the bridge pickup side and used the tremolo and the fuzz on the amp and things like that. And so it made for some interesting combinations. And it was a bit... fortunately, I had a Ford F-150, so moving this stuff around wasn't too bad. But after a while, it just became ridiculous to find somewhere to put it and then to haul it around and
get anybody to help you carry it.
I'm not even sure it sounded that great, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it probably sounded fantastic.
Yeah, that's usually when when the other bandmates are like, "No, we're not helping you."
Right. We thought the PA was big.
Yeah.
Actually, the PAs weren't that big.
So I could roll them.
PAs weren't that big at that time.
No.
I mean, I can remember way back for Shure Vocal Masters and Altek Lansing Voice of the Theater. The Voice of the Theater was like the biggest speaker box I'd ever seen.
Right.
It's funny. My old bass player, he had an Ampeg SVT 4 Pro, and he had the 810 Pro cabinet. Mm-hmm. Now, this is not like the standard 810. This is the 810 with a cadaver inside of it. So we go to pick this thing up, and I was like, I'm done. This is ridiculous. It weighed like 275 pounds, this cabinet.
That cabinet, it's like it handles 1,000 watts or something like that.
It was 1,600 watts bridge.
1,600.
Well, that's what I tour with now.
Oh, my God.
That's the exact rig I tour with, is the 8x10 cabinet with a SVT 4 Pro head.
Oh, my God. That's a beast.
Wow. Yeah, they've got crew.
I hire crew guys.
They've got crew. Right?
I don't touch it.
Crew guys with really good backs and biceps.
To be honest with you, when I bought mine at home directly from Ampeg, I said, send me a 4x10 cabinet and a single 15 cabinet, because I knew that was going to be a lot easier to move around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they are.
Yeah,
considerably easier.
But, I think that line... I don't even think they do it anymore, because I don't think anybody wanted to carry it.
That's like the 812 original Marshall cabinets.
Yeah,
it's like the roadies are going, no, not doing it. I cut those things in half.
I think you can get the 410s, but I don't think you can get the 810 anymore. You can get it in the SVT,
right? But not the
not the Pro series.
Yeah,
right.
And that that was cool. What you said with
I don't care what form it is. I just didn't see myself moving that thing around.
Can't imagine.
That's when you just attach it to the tow hitch on the back of the truck.
It's got a good set of casters. Just drive.
There you go. Just drive. Yeah, it's funny you said the Rickosound thing and putting effects on the bridge side of it. That's like Billy Sheehan before Billy Sheehan. That's so cool. I like that.
Yeah, he's got that whole distorted, clean thing.
People used to play me Billy Sheehan back. There'd be a cassette of Taos Live, and it'd be like, what is that? What is he? What's he doing? I don't even know how he's doing that. He was tapping,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's insane. I'd never heard anything like that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's over the top, and it's I've read, I've seen a bunch of articles and seen a bunch of interviews and stuff like that, and he's like, I just kind of know where we are in the song, but he goes, I don't know, it's not a whole lot of musical theory behind what I'm doing, and Steve Vai, I think, helped him with a lot of that during the David Lee Roth years, because he used to just, I think it was just, he had a ton of speed, and you can get away with a lot when when it's at a hyper speed as opposed to,
by the time somebody realized you hit a wrong note, you're 4 notes past it.
He's already back in the rhythm.
That's right. It's like, what was? Oh, it's gone. It doesn't matter.
So it's funny because you said that the Prog stuff was the Yes stuff and all, and I was thinking of this while he was saying it. He set that bar for himself, and we've talked about this with these younger players now, setting the bar as they start off learning Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah. You don't start with
you don't start with Smoke
Blind
on the Water
Mice or something.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool because I was like, well, how some of these prod guys got to where they were, and it's like, oh well, they had Yes and Rush and all these bands, and if you started at that level, Well, there was only up.
Right.
It wasn't like you had to go any else.
Well, it's only up if you can accomplish that level in the first place.
Yes, that is true.
And obviously, Randy has.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
well, a big part of what drove me, I think, was not so much. The Prog guys really gave me the passion to want to do that kind of music, but the riffs. I think the biggest influence for me for fast riffs and that kind of thing was Steve Morse, the Dixie Dregs.
Oh, wow. Love
Dave LaRue, right? Dave LaRue is the bass player for...
Well, back in the day, in the original Dregs, it was Andy West.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Dave came into the picture mid-'80s, and of course, Dave's an amazing player as well.
God, yeah, he's insane.
But Steve Morse himself is really the guy who used to write all that stuff, so they were his riffs that, I was playing and stuff. And so that I think, in a lot of ways, pushed me to learn how to pick fast and do the speed picking thing on bass. And
that's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that Morse charted out all that stuff. The bass lines and everything. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Steve is.
Everything.
Yeah, wow. Steve's insane as a musician. He gets into the mechanics, I think, more than anybody I've ever seen as a musician.
He was absolutely one of the most unique guitar players I'd ever seen.
Like, he talks about how he has to practice inside picking, where you pick, like, say you have your D and your G, you pick, you pick, and you have to jump back to the Ds, right? So you have to
go back and forth between the two strings. You're not, one's an upstroke, one's a downstroke.
Yeah, but they're inside, so you're going away and have to come back and then go away and then come. And he was like, efficient-wise, it's not. But what it does is creates this, this unique picking style that and then once you learn it, then you can never get lost in between strings.
Well, if you're trying to do arpeggios that go across different strings, it's kind of critical to have to do that.
Yeah.
I have to do a lot of that to play a lot of Neal's riffs, because Neal Morse, he writes all these riffs on keyboards mostly. But every instrument's playing it. So in order for me to play keyboard riffs on bass, inside picking becomes sort of a necessity in order to make it work.
And that's a huge jump.
Yeah, on a bass.
That's not like a guitar.
Right, exactly.
That is cool, man.
Well, you mentioned you use a pick.
I use a pick mostly because Neal always wants. He likes picked bass. To him, that's what he's always after. He was always after that, so I always did it. So because prior to playing with Neal, I think I'd stopped playing with a pick after the '80s. I started learning to play with my fingers and slap, pop, tap, all kinds of techniques that were happening around the '90s, early '90s. Michael Manring and Stu Hamm and those guys doing that kind of stuff, and Billy Sheen, of course. And I decided it was time I learned to do a lot of that, and so I sat down with somebody who could teach me some of that, and I learned a lot of new techniques and started developing tapping, and then I played strictly with my fingers for the next decade and a half, really. And then when I joined the Neal Morse band, I was like, it's like, well, could you pick it? I'm like, oh, sure. So I just sort of stuck with that. And then at that point, of course, you see, when I stopped playing with the pick at the end of the '80s, it wasn't cool to play with the pick. If you played with the pick, it wasn't cool. It was totally uncool. You had to play with your fingers. That was just the only thing that was acceptable anymore. And that was sort of the mindset. Well, most of that has all gone full circle, and now you have generations of fans who never really grew up with speed picking on a bass. They didn't really grow up with and they didn't really grow up watching bass players play with a pick. So now that they see me doing it, it's like a cool thing because they've never seen it before. It's new to them.
Wow.
Huh.
So I'm one of the few guys that really still does that, and I figured, well, that's what I do and I do really well. I might as well stick to it now, because now it makes me unique instead of so I don't have to be uncool now. I'm cool because I'm unique, I guess, or something like that. Whereas every other bass player plays with their fingers, but it's like every other bass player sounds the same. The tone is always the same when you play with your fingers. And you can, even Billy's tone, it can be really growly and muddy and stuff, and it's cool, and he does an incredible job that you cannot get that sound with your fingers. It's just, there's no way you can do it, especially Neal Morse band stuff. the lines don't sound the same if you try to play them with your fingers. It just sounds like, any bass player could. But trying to recreate the sound I create for myself is impossible, because I've tried to find another bass to retire the one I'm using because it's rare and I don't want anything to happen to it. It's already been stolen once and I got it back.
Ooh.
But yeah, so, it's one of those things where it's sort of defined me as a player now. And so it's like, good. Now I don't have to work so hard to change it.
Well, you got to remember, though, the greatest bass player of all time that played with a pick, Lemmy.
So
there you go. Right? You had your Rickenbacker, and he played with a pick.
And through Marshalls.
And, just a handful of amphetamines and a bottle of Jack and some cigarettes, and you're good to go.
Ace of spades, baby. Ace of spades.
I just watched this documentary. What a life.
Wow.
And that guy never lived like he was rich. Mm-hmm. He lived in a rent-controlled apartment in Los Angeles, $900 a month. He said, "Why am I going to move?"
Why would you move? When he wasn't on tour, you could find him at a bar.
Down at the Rainbow.
Yeah, just having a drink.
Yeah.
I'd love to continue on,
man.
But we've got coming up a little short on time because we got to get the next interview in here. So, Randy, what's your full rig like now? Are there any pedals involved in what you do? And what is the bass? Because I was going to ask you about that. And you mentioned it's rare, and you want to find a replacement. What is it?
Well, it's a Spectre NS-JH5. It was made in 1999, which was the first year that Stewart had gotten the company back from whoever it was that bought it. I think it was a Gibson that bought it for a while or something. Then he got it back and he started making them himself again. So it's one of those first runs of the basses. It's just changed. He's just changed manufacturing a lot, and I've asked him to recreate it, and he won't do it. Wow. And I haven't been able. I just, the bass has a sound that works in the Neal Morse band. It's really all about Neal's music and how the sound fits into his music. It's not like a lot of music. Neal Morse band music tends to be very dense, and because it's dense and there's not a lot of air flowing through it, the last thing you want is a big grunty bass sound, because you're going to be fighting too many other layers in the music for real estate.
Sure.
This bass has just the right tone to stay out of the way of the rest of the music, but give it that slamming against the wall bass tone. That is what that sound is in the music, and it somehow just blends the music at just the right level of frequency and brightness without being too overly too overpowering in frequency areas where it would muddy up the mix. So yeah, it's been really tough to try to find something that even works as well. Every time I've used a different bass in the Neal Morse band, it just doesn't really work, except for the few odd numbers where, it's like, this last album I used my P bass and with flat one strings, no less, and I used a fretless as well. So, So there were some different colors on the album. That's easy to do in the studio. Doesn't necessarily translate quite as well live, but I find ways to do it. So, but yeah, I have a big pedal board, and I primarily use a Sans amp. And the Spectre has EMGs with an Aguilar OBP1 at the jack, so that goes through the Sans amp, and that's primarily the tone. And then I have some effects, some Tech 21 effects like the Red Ripper for distortion, and a TC Electronics tremolo, and TC Electronics Vortex flanger, and a Crybaby. So those are the primary effects on this tour that I'm using.
Nice.
That is sweet.
And the Ampeg SVT
4 Pro, with the 810 cabinet.
There you go. And crew. It comes along. It should come along with it.
That's right. You said it.
Randy, before we go, any you guys are out touring now, and you're actually close to us next weekend, I think, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to get out there. I'd love to. And then you guys go all over Europe. But any have you done any solo stuff? Is there any solo stuff you want to plug? Any releases or anything?
I have 2 solo albums. They're both on iTunes. I have physical CDs available at the shows as well from my second solo album, which came out in 2012. It's mostly instrumental, fusion-y, instrumental kind of stuff. Some of it's poppy. Some of it's even a little bit contemporary. So yeah, I'd like to do another solo record. I'm really anticipating diving into one here probably in the second half of this year.
Nice.
So, yeah.
If you have a
and
website.
then, of course, I had a band in Seattle named Agilon. That was a 3-piece power trio that sort of sounded like a cross between Marillion and Genesis.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
You know, and Rick Wakeman put us on the map. We sent him our first album, and he released it on his label and put us in front of a much larger audience. And subsequently, we did a couple more CDs in that band. It's not really a functioning band anymore, but yeah, that's pretty much my some of the primary work that's outside of the Neal Morse band.
Cool.
And if you have a website, we'll make sure that's on the show link.
Great. RandyGeorgeMusic.net.
All right. So that'll be there in
perpetuity.
That's right. And it'll live in the archives and everything else.
That's right.
So
that's
cool.
Right.
Randy, like I said, I'd like to continue, but we've got to run because we've got another interview right behind you.
Yes.
But thank you so much for taking the time. I'm glad this finally worked. It worked well, too.
Thanks,
so thank you very much.
For having me.
Much continued success in your career. Have a great tour of Europe. And if things change, maybe I can get down to see you because you're at the State Theater in Falls Church, Virginia next week. And I'd love to see you guys.
Yeah, man.
If something works out. Maybe I'll come down and see you.
Yeah.
Sure, let us know.
Okay.
No problem. We'd love to see you. All right. Thanks, guys.
Fantastic.
Thank you,
Randy. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too.
And there you have the story.
Awesome stuff, man.
Yeah. Mr. Randy George, you know, I learned how to play with a pick from like the old school guys.
Yeah.
You know, then went, no, that doesn't fit into this music. And now he's back to, oh, yeah, this is the only way you can execute this music. You know, it's just so cool. And the same bass rig.
Yeah.
How funny is that? That's my bass rig.
Yeah. That bass rig, man, I couldn't go near it because it would make you feel like you were getting sick, man. That thing gets down. Let me tell you, that thing can produce some serious waves and push them far. That is, I don't, you know, I heard Flea one time talk about no matter what company he ever used, he blew up their stuff. And then Galley and Kruger came in and they, you know, they modified some amps and they make a line now. And that's all he's been using. I'm going, what about the 1600 watt monster that can push so much air, you can't walk in front of it. And I don't know what his rig must sound like if that's the case.
Jesus.
Ampeg, man, they're nobody to sneeze at.
They were always a company that made bass amplifiers, you know. First and foremost, they were known for bass. Fender was guitar and Ampeg was bass.
Yep.
You know, and that started with the Portaflex that all the Motown stuff, all that studio era
More
stuff.
stuff than you could probably imagine was recorded on
Portaflex.
Yep.
You know, and that's, that was like a 50 watt amp, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so sweet. And that's where they got their reputation. They built bass stuff.
And take it to, your rock and roll guys. And we can use Cliff Williams from AC/DC.
Okay.
And we can use, and I don't know his name. I should be shot. But the bass player from Airborne. They got the two SVT 300 watt tube, 810 classic cabinets on each side of the stage. You're not sneezing when you have one of those things. That is, they are beasts within their own right. And then to take it and do all this craziness to it and get it to 1600 watts, it's just, that is a firebox.
I would say, what's the need? But obviously, Randy finds that it's quite handy to have that much power. So, I'm going to go, hey.
There you go. And it sounds great because
absolutely
they are a great band.
Yeah. I thanks for turning me on to them. I really,
man.
It's my Prog's coming back out.
We have to get a little shout to Amanda. We'll just say Amanda.
Oh, okay.
She'll know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you start interviewing one person and they go, hey, you want to interview 6 more people? And we're like, yes, we will.
Absolutely. Let me look at this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, and we'll do it again.
Yes, we will. So until next time, my friend.
That's right, because we're going to do it again.
We really will.
We will, because we've already done it.
I'm Mick Marcelino.
That leaves me as being Geoff Bober.
And we're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter at Amps and Axes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.